Mr. Speaker.
Penny Henare.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
It's a very good choice.
Once upon a time, sir, the world looked towards New Zealand as a leading light, a shining hope, a country where prosperity was found everywhere, where kids played and families were able to raise their tamariki and their mokopuna in what is essentially a utopian society. Well, what we can see at the moment now, Mr. Speaker, is in fact Rome is burning. And I say Rome is burning because not only is there a housing bubble, but inside that bubble is this government. They are oblivious to the decisions that they are making and the impact it's having on our reputation around the world. And I say that in light of a very recent topic, Mr. Speaker, 250 extra refugees coming to New Zealand. Well, whippy! That's just not enough. There has been pressure from the international community on all governments across the world to take this issue seriously. And what does this government do? It only increases it by 250. And now the world is looking at us and saying, by crikey, maybe New Zealand isn't the leading light of the world. And maybe, in fact, this government is, in fact, living inside the housing bubble that they've created, oblivious to the fact that the decisions they've made has had a huge impact on our reputation around the world. Mr. Speaker, I'm reminded of one of my favourite songs in the 90s, C&C Music Factory, things that make you go, things that make you go, And the reason for that, Mr. Speaker, is once upon a time, Te Puia Marae were doing what the government failed to do.
That's right.
All of a sudden, the government comes out with a smear campaign, things that make you go, We're asking questions of the minister and this government, exactly what was the cause of that? No answer. Things that make you go, And I can tell you for a fact, Mr. Speaker, that Te Puia Marae are doing a fantastic job. In fact, I want to share some of those numbers if I can, Mr. Speaker. Over 60 assessments completed within 2.5 weeks. They've housed within Te Puia Marae 91 people, over 10 families and over 50 children. And while this government talks about these great achievements for education, I can tell the House, Mr. Speaker, that of the 50 children inside Te Puia Marae, nearly 30% have only gone to their first day of school this year in the week just gone. What does that tell you about the ignorance of this government and the failure of this system to actually take education seriously, to make sure that the children that are finding themselves, not by choice, Mr. Speaker, because children don't choose to live in cars. Children don't choose to live in garages. Children don't choose to not go to school. And sadly, Mr. Speaker, what we're seeing at Te Puia Marae is over 30% of the kids that have gone into Te Puia Marae have attended school for the first time in the week just gone. That speaks to a failure of this system. 8 long years of this government, 8 long years. Kids born while this government has been in power have fallen through the gaps, Mr. Speaker. They've fallen through the gaps. And sadly, what this government can't do, they've appointed all of these ministers to look after these issues. What they've failed to do, in fact, Mr. Speaker, is actually connect all the dots. Because what a housing crisis is a part of, what a poor education system is a part of, all of these things, Mr. Speaker, speaks to poverty. It speaks to poverty. And this government isn't taking poverty seriously. And I challenge any of the members on that side, come to Tāmaki Makaurau. Come along with me and I'll take you to Te Puia Marae. But leave your grubby politics out of it. Leave the grubby politics out of it and let the marae do what they've done in the past 3 weeks, filling the holes found in this government's policies. And I listen to the minister over there, Mr. Speaker, and I say this. She thinks she forced her staff members to help Te Puia Marae. She is in fact wrong. It was myself who called those staff to make sure they got to Te Puia Marae, and I challenge her to show her phone records. I'll show mine to see who made the phone call first. So I finish, Mr. Speaker, by once again congratulating Te Puia Marae for the great job that they've done in filling the holes found in this government's policies moving forward. And I want to say to Huri and to the board, Kia kaha.
Mr. Speaker,